everyone. Welcome to Creative Conversations. I'm Stephanie Gillard, the CEO and producing artistic director at American Stage. And so happy you could join me, whether you're on Zoom or whether you're on the American Stage YouTube channel, whether you're watching this live or watching this recorded version. I appreciate you being a part of our community conversation. We come together on Creative Conversations to try and talk truth about the conversations that often are happening behind the scenes about what's going on at American Stage and our industry of live theater and the arts in general. And I want to invite you tonight, if you have some suggestions, because we have decided to continue Creative Conversations. Originally, this was just a June every Monday event. We're going to be continuing Creative Conversations every other Monday for the time being. So in the Q&A box down there, please feel free to let us know any suggestions of topics that you're interested in hearing about. In the future, we're going to be talking about things like mental health and the arts, and also sharing more particular details about what are the things that are holding us back from fully restarting back to live performances at American Stage. We want to have honest conversations with you and answer your questions and stay connected. We believe that American Stage is here to bring our community together in whatever platform we can safely do so. And right now, this is part of helping to make sure we create and continue a dialogue with one another. So thank you so much. Tonight's conversation is about perspectives from the boardroom, and I am going to jump right to it. So I'm really excited for tonight's guest. I first want to say that in the nonprofit world, the relationship between a CEO and the chair of the board is a pivotal and instrumental relationship in ensuring the focus, the efficacy, and just the overall impact of that organization. And I am blessed to have Robin Rusignolo, who Robin graduated from Stetson University College of Law in 2005. She worked as a corporate attorney and HR consultant until transitioning into operational roles in 2012. And since then, she has led several companies, including a national HR consulting company and a multi-state health insurance company serving Medicaid populations. And last year, she co-founded Soul Venture, a technology platform that provides benefits and administrative support to freelancers and gig workers. Robin joined the American Stage Board in July 2016, and she now serves as our illustrious board chair. And I'm thrilled to welcome you, Robin, to our conversation tonight.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Robin and I have been having a lot of conversations about a lot of different things lately, and we had to kind of pick and choose what to focus on tonight because there are so many things to talk about. But I'm really glad you're here and would love for you to just start us off, Robin, talking about why you serve on the board of American Stage Trustees.
Well, thank you. First of all, Stephanie, thank you for having me. And I just want to say thank you for doing these Creative Conversations. I've really enjoyed listening to them over the past few weeks. And so it is a real honor to be a part of one tonight. So just a little bit about my path to the American Stage Board. Graduated from grad school here in the St. Pete area in 2005, like Stephanie said. About I guess 5 years ago, my husband and I really committed to being here in the long term, bought a house in St. Pete, and really just decided we were committed to making this community our home, for the duration. So I was at that point looking for an organization that reflected, my values, had a mission and a vision that was aligned with things that were important to me, and was just interested in a few different organizations and the possibility of working with them, and got connected with Stephanie from a current trustee, and we met for lunch. I had seen some American Stage productions. We met for lunch, and Stephanie explained her vision for American Stage, its history and legacy in the community, and really how she envisioned it for the next few years and beyond that. And it was just a perfect fit. And so I was ecstatic to have the opportunity to join in 2016. And it is a, kind of roll up your sleeves and do work and have fun kind of board. So since then I have served in the governance committee and currently chair the advancement committee and have served in a couple different executive roles, but it has been an incredible experience. So Stephanie, thank you for that lunch 4 years ago. It changed, really changed my life.
Well, and quite a bond we have forged, and I can't help but kind of laugh a little bit now at the fact that back then you said you were really looking for a nonprofit board where you would really be able to work and have something to do. And I don't think you could have imagined what was in store for you, particularly as it relates to the last few months. But maybe just to start and to give some context, for those who maybe don't know a whole lot about the specifics of a nonprofit board, if you could just share maybe from your perspective, the difference between a nonprofit board and a corporate board or for-profit board.
Sure, happy to. And I will just, try not to get like too cerebral about some of the nuances. I think that a lot of the governance is the same. I think like the duties of, duty of care that a trustee or a director owes to a board is duty of loyalty, duty of care is really similar in a for-profit and not-for-profit setting. You have the duty of care, the entity's best interest in mind. I think in a for-profit setting, that really is the company's shareholders. A lot of times that can be, the financial, impact to the shareholders kind of being at the forefront. In a nonprofit setting, it's really the company's mission and purpose that is central to that duty for a board. Just really fundamental. And the sustainability, I also think, of the organization. Some other, I think, distinctions in a for-profit board setting, a lot of times, a director could be, role could be for pay, or there could be some kind of incentives attached to that. And I think generally for nonprofit board members, it is volunteer. I mean, these are people that are individuals or professionals in the community that feel really aligned with the organization's, mission, and are there in a volunteer capacity, really to have an impact and, to do it for the good of the organization and the community.
I always think, it's a really kind of special kind of person. And I feel this way very strongly because I've worked in the nonprofit sector for a number of years now, but to have the level of fiduciary kind of oversight and responsibility that a trustee has on a nonprofit board, but to do that, but to make that commitment and take on that responsibility and truly just be doing so out of really the motivation to benefit the community and in whatever way that organization's mission serves the community. It's really a special kind of person.
Right. If I could just add too, I think that, and not to interrupt, but it is a special person. And I think we are so blessed and so fortunate that American Stage, has such an engaged, committed board. I mean, everybody really is all in. Puts in the work and is, I think, really there for the right reasons and engaged. And it's been that way since joining a few years ago, but really, especially in the past few months, it's been more critical than ever. And the trustees have really, I just think, just leaned into what the organization's going through.
Yeah, and that's actually a great transition into the next question, because I agree with you. We have a really engaged board that really cares about the organization, believes the positive impact that our work can have on bringing our community together. But it would be really easy right now and understandable and forgivable for trustees to become a lot less focused and engaged, because everybody is dealing with what's going on in our world personally and in their own businesses and practices. So the fact that we have continued to stay as solid and as really as collaborative and engaged as everyone has, and in partnership with me, I've been so incredibly grateful for that. But I'd like to share with folks who are listening how the conversations have changed among the board and in the boardroom pre-pandemic and now.
So how long do we have? Because I feel like this is really...
We'll start with the highlights and see if any questions come in.
A lot of change. So I think it's also just important to put into context that the board works with you at the start of every year. We do have a board retreat where everybody gets together offsite for a Saturday in January, and we really, lay out our plan, our strategic planning for the year. And we had a really great meeting in January. We had a full agenda. We had a full, robust plan. We were board governance, community engagement, board engagement. Really even just talking about succession planning for the organization, which is best practices. And then plus we had a whole separate short-term, mid-term, and long-term plan for facilities because we were, at maximum capacity with respect to facilities. So we had everything laid out, and there was this beautiful, we were moving forward with this plan. And then less than a month later, I think is when some, trustees started talking, hey, what COVID-19, what happens if this actually comes to the US and starts spreading? What are we going to do? We need to start talking about this. So we started talking about it early, but I think it really started to get real and serious like late February and early March. And at that point in time, we really had to start pivoting, pivoting our meetings and our discussions, certainly our board meetings on, what if this really happens? And something that is just scary to think about, and I've said this a few times, we've kind of like joked about it, but it's not in a funny way, how I think our board meeting in March, if I recall, how you had thoughtfully laid out, and now we know, coronavirus is here, it's going to have an impact, it will have an impact on programming and on the theater and on the community. And you had laid out a series of different plans, and it was best case scenario, mid case A, mid case B, worst case scenario. And it was, first of all, thank you, because the planning was just so thoughtful and comprehensive on all facets, financial, creative, operational. So thank you, Stephanie. But it became really clear prior to our next board meeting that all of a sudden the worst case scenario had really become the best case scenario. And it was really just sobering and I think a little scary. But we have been meeting regularly, routinely, we have our COVID task force to help get through this. And we are constantly talking, meeting, and working through this just to make sure that we are, considering and addressing all angles, wanting, of course, to return to live programming, but knowing that we have to do it in a, really in a safe, in the right way. But so back to your question about how the conversations really, and just our conversations as a board have changed since the pandemic. I mean, there really are two things that I would want to stress. I think coronavirus, without question, I mean, it's at this point, any organization and any human is feeling this, just like this impact in all facets of your life. But it really was a complete, stop in your tracks, like pivot, for the theater, and a lot of, collaboration and working together, trying to, navigate through that. And then with the murder of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement, that was, just deeply, deeply important, and like of something that the board really has been talking about, working on, and really wanting to really get right for the sake of the organization and for the Black Lives Matter movement, but also systemic racism. So that's been something since late May, when we first started really talking about this after George Floyd was murdered, and it really was this social movement rapidly gaining momentum and becoming a lot more visible. But that's also something that the board is, our executive committee, governance committee, and the full board is working on regularly right now. So really, it's just, it's very different from that day back in January, and from the priorities, concerns, and considerations, and really kind of the immediate future the work the board is doing.
It's an interesting, a couple of things I want to point out about what you just said. And thank you for bringing up both of those topics, because they both have been so core to kind of what the way we are spending our time and resources and energy and our planning are looking at these two issues. One is the pandemic and the long term, because we know that we aren't just going to flip the switch and return to normal. So what is the long term? But also looking really honestly at the racial justice movement right now, and what is our role as an organization that exists to bring people together, and as an organization that is about lifting up voices and amplifying stories. Where have we, what have we been missing? Because the EDI is not a new conversation for American Stage by any stretch, but the wake up call of how much more there is to do has been profound. And I think a lot of people are maybe not aware of how much arts organizations and theaters in particular are really being held to account and really needing to take a strong look at our whole kind of infrastructure and the ground on which we've built our institutions.
That's right. I think your conversation a few weeks ago was, thank you so much for doing that, and for having that conversation for our community. I think EDI has always been something that we have talked about as a board since I've been on the board, and we would have the conversations, we would do some work, and I think we would measure ourselves without any real data, internal data or real benchmarking, and we thought, I think you talked about this in your conversation, just almost by normalizing, by normalizing race and diversity, I think we missed some real opportunity to do a little more work than that. So, in late May, when you and I started talking about this, I think really regularly, and having honest conversations and some long conversations, just really, it was important to me because I don't have a background in theater. I don't, and I don't come from this space, but it was just important to try to read and to learn about what this movement, of course, but also how the history of theater and how this movement is impacting theater, and where, theater and the arts have really fallen short in maybe not doing enough for sustainable anti-racism. And so, we started meeting as an executive committee and a governance committee, and then bringing the two committees together. And then really, I think very quickly realized that our first step was really to do a lot of listening, because I'm the first person that thinks, like, if this is a problem, okay, you're going to, that's how I am. Okay, how do we fix it? Like, you can't committee your way out of this or policy your way through this and have actual sustained impact and change. You just can't. This is going to take years and a lot of thought and a lot of work. And that's not to say we can't do things in the immediate short term. So I think we agreed we needed to do some deep listening and really have a series of conversations, facilitated by a third party, but with, staff, artists, audience, members of our audience, but also people that aren't our audience, to find out how they're feeling about how we're doing, and to how, where we've done good work, where we can have more of an impact. And I think so in bringing different groups of people together, collecting data, utilizing that, the information, feedback, and just what we learn from that with, kind of more macro level data, I think that's going to inform, our creation of a council specifically dedicated to diversity, and really enable us to do a more long-term plan that we can measure against,
right?
Really assess our progress going forward. So,
and one of the things that's so important, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just want to underscore how important it is that this is work that the fact that the board is engaging in this work with me and that we're having these conversations together is so critical, because this is about institutional change. And it's not about my agenda or my ideologies. It's really about the values of the organization, and that's where the board really their role in this. And somebody asked the question, "What is EDI?" If you're not familiar, it's a shorthand for equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I want to open the conversation up, Robin, to priorities in general, so as we talk about the EDI work and really clarifying how we as an organization are more actively bringing about anti-racist policies and practices. But we're still inside of this pandemic, and we're still inside of a time of a long runway for return to anything resembling the way we used to do our work. So what do you feel, how can you articulate, and I know it's a lot to wrap around in just the short time we have, but the biggest priorities for the board at this time, what would you say those things are?
Just across the board, or specifically with respect to?
Yeah, across the board right now at this point in time.
Wow. Well, I think, in the immediate day-to-day, really making sure that you and the staff are okay. And I just would like to say thank you. I mean, to you, your leadership team, and your staff for just really pivoting with grace, not skipping a beat, and just taking what you do and what you've done so well and fashioning it really quickly into something quickly but mindfully into something that's just different, a little bit the same, but still different. So I think, priorities, really just continuing that, whether it's the Shakespeare Light or, the shorts that have just been really, really fun and just such a great break on Thursday night, but just continuing to be a presence in the community, also just continuing this innovative programming while we can't be, producing live shows. I think that's definitely a priority. Of course, the priority to finding that path, that right path to returning to the stage in a way that's safe, safe for staff, safe for artists, safe for the production, team, and just that's safe for our audience. What does that look like? And it's like every day, and I know you know this more than anyone, every day there's a new study, a new theater that's doing, or not a new theater, but a theater that's doing something new or releasing their plan. And it's very, very in flux, trying to kind of navigate through this and, fashion, I know for you to fashion what that's going to look like safely, but certainly a priority. So really just the pandemic response planning is a priority. And then also really, leaning in to this moment with Black Lives Matter movement and anti-racism, and making sure that we are doing this in a way that we are showing up as a community leader and really ensuring the sustainability of anti-racism in theater and the arts in our community is, I think, very important to our board and to the organization. And then, of course, there is the long game priority of the sustainability of American Stage, which has been around for 40 plus years and is really kind of like a cornerstone of our community, and just ensuring like that's always always a thought, I think, for all of the trustees. It's just that long-term sustainability of the organization itself when you're dealing with so much crisis and change.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of people are wanting that comfort and wanting to hear, not just from me, but from the board level too, that American Stage is going to endure this time. And while we try to innovate in our present moment to stay connected, that we are very mindful of a return that is not just obviously that's safe and healthy, but also that we'll still be strong enough to be back at and bringing the kind of quality work that our community became so accustomed to.
If you don't mind adding, I do want to just, for the people that might be listening to this, I do want to just talk about the strength of American Stage for a moment. And this was, part of what had motivated me, just so strongly, I think, wanting to be a part of this board and this organization. The work that you and the American Stage team have done over the last few years in terms of this strategic plan, really just, the committee work, and just really, kind of growing this wonderful team in producing such quality work. I mean, the organization has really put itself in the position to be able to withstand this. And this could be, a longer game than we think right now, but the organization is, and that's not to say that it's, a bed of roses, because it's not. I mean, it's a roller coaster, and it keeps me up at night, thinking about this for sure. But, the organization, has a deep, rich history in this area. That we have, not just, I would like to also recognize the Strategic Advisory Board, many of whom are former board members, have just substantial, interest in American Stage and ensuring its sustainability.
Yeah.
It is strong, and we will get through this.
We will. And it's, it's worth mentioning that we're trying to right now make as much of our virtual programming accessible to the community by not charging. We are relying on individuals who are able to donate. And we were really fortunate that Bank of America, who, identified American Stage as a neighborhood partner a number of years ago, stepped up and said, we want to, help ensure that you're able to continue keeping your artists working, staying connected with the community. And so those are the kinds of relationships that have been formed over the last 4+ decades that are so particularly meaningful now. And those who can do a little bit more are, and we're going to continue to ask them for their help, because it's important that we are here for our community, and we're not here just for a small portion of our community, but we're here for everyone. And with that in mind, Robin, in our final moments, I'd love to hear your hopes and expectations for the future of American Stage, all of these things considered.
Well, just really quickly, back to what you had just said about people really stepping up and organizations really stepping up. It has been incredible. This is a hard time, as you said earlier. This is a hard time for everybody. I think personally, professionally, this is tough. And a lot of companies and people have really stepped up in a time where it is hard. It's harder to do that. And I just want to say thank you, to all of those individuals for in this time of just like need and uncertainty, for being there, because it is deeply appreciated. And so to answer your question, what are my hopes and what I want to make sure.
Expectations, just wanting to do a job description for my future, just little things like job performance goals.
Okay, so really in the more short term, it's really just keep up the amazing work of still being there, being a presence, being American Stage for a community that needs to see and hear from American Stage, and producing, really great, continuing to produce this great work. You're doing the virtual summer camps. You've had to pivot and do that shift. To still be there for the children that are attending the camps. And so please, that is a hope. Like, please keep that work going, because it's needed. And then I think in the long term, it is really, like I said, American Stage has been around 40+ years, and we are going to be around for 40+ more. So it is just continuing that legacy, that, the history of, doing really thoughtful, meaningful work, and really in a time of uncertainty when our community needs art and needs live theater more than ever. I think being there to help people heal and get to a new normal. We're not going back to the way things were, and things will be forever different after going through this. But I really, just long-term sustainability of the theater, but also the theater's role in helping this community heal and really serving as a community center for St. Petersburg and also our region.
Thank you for that. That's so well put. And I am looking forward to future creative conversations that are about the healing aspects of what we can offer as an arts community, about our role in really even in serving kind of our overall mental health, and what that looks like in the immediate, what that looks like in the long term. And I am confident with this board of directors and the ethos of this board of trustees that we're going to be a bigger, better boat. We're going to build a better model of what a leading arts organization can and should be doing for its community. This is going to make us stronger. It's tough right now, and I'm grateful to each and every one of our trustees, Robin, with you at the helm, exceptionally grateful. And to those of you, again, who are listening right now, particularly for those of you who do any work or service for nonprofits in our community, thank you for what you do. It matters so much. And this is, as we look forward to future conversations, I again want to invite you to make suggestions for topics. I've got a number of things I'm looking forward to talking about. As we wrap up tonight, please feel free to drop in our Q&A or our chat box any ideas, or drop me an email at escalart@americanstage.org. I'll be back for our next creative conversation on the 27th, I believe, of July. Everybody out there, stay safe and stay healthy and stay connected. Thank you so much, Robin.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Stay well. Bye.
Good night, everybody.